When I was in the practice of law, I didn't love the practice of law. I was in litigation and burnt out and didn't really enjoy what I was doing. And so I had to kind of make a decision. Do I stay in the profession or do I go and find something else to do? And I got to a point of realizing, there are two types of people in the legal profession. There are those who practice, and they're fantastic people. And then there are those people who take care of the profession and the people in it.
Are you ready to make your law firm a profit-generating machine that will free up your time and skyrocket your impact? With more than 2 decades of business growth experience and having proven that you can be successful while prioritizing your family and your impact, introducing the Profit with Law podcast. I am your host, the creator of the Firm Differentiator 10X Effect, Moshe Amsel. Well, hello and welcome to the Profit with Law podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel, and today we have another guest for you. This is an exciting one. Our guest today is Ryann Peyton. Ryann is the director of Colorado Attorney Mentoring Program and the director of Legal Entrepreneurs for Justice. Let's see. Ryann is a former litigator and a seasoned consultant and advocate on professionalism, diversity, and equity in the legal field. Ryann is a frequent commentator, presenter, and lecturer. Prior to joining CAMP, Colorado Attorney Mentoring Program, Ryann focused their law practice on civil litigation with an emphasis on LGBTQ families and civil rights. Ryann has been routinely recognized for their legal practice, most recently earning the 2019 American Bar Association Rosner and Rosner Young Lawyer Professionalism Award. Ryann sits on the boards of several Colorado legal organizations and currently leads the Colorado Bar Association as president. Ryann earned their law degree from the University of St. Thomas School of Law and holds an LLM and undergraduate degree from the University of Denver. A lot of mouthfuls there. Ryann, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
It's my pleasure to host you, and I really appreciate you taking out some time from your precious day to hang out with me, and that by definition meaning hanging out with my audience. So what I like to do is when we start off an episode, I want people to get to know who you are. That bio, the pre-canned intro is great, but it doesn't really tell us who you are as a person. And I'd like you to give us the broad strokes of who Ryann Peyton is and what's exciting that we're gonna jump into today.
Sure. Well, I like to call myself an accidental lawyer. I never really intended to become a member of the legal profession. I actually wanted to be an FBI agent and work in behavioral health. And obviously, it's really hard to become an FBI agent. So I went to law school thinking that would help, but it didn't work itself out. So here I am in the profession, having practiced law for a while. But I'll be honest, when I was in the practice of law, I didn't love the practice of law. I was in litigation and burnt out and didn't really enjoy what I was doing. And so I had to kind of make a decision. Do I stay in the profession or do I go and find something else to do? And I got to a point of realizing, there are two types of people in the legal profession. There are those who practice, and they're fantastic people. And then there are those people who take care of the profession and the people in it. And I decided I was kind of more associated with the latter. And so I made the switch from practice to doing the work of caretaking in the profession. And so that means I do a lot of mentoring, I do a lot of professional development, I do a lot of program creation, all in the hopes of creating a profession and creating lawyers who are happier, healthier, and more successful. Outside of all of that, I'm a mom, I'm a spouse. I love to ski, love to fly fish. I'm from Colorado, so I do all the outdoor things. But I think that's me in a nutshell.
That's awesome, and I love the Colorado outdoor aspect. I'm in New York, but I've been out in I don't know which part of Colorado you're in, but I flew out to Denver a couple of times. I did a nice long snowboarding trip with some friends. And once you've been out there and you've experienced the powder on the mountains of Colorado, New York skiing and snowboarding is never the same. So I resonate with you there, and at sometimes I wish I lived in Colorado. Fly fishing sounds nice. I've never done it, but anything outdoors is really wonderful, and being able to spend time out there. Interesting road of your profession. I actually have, and it's crazy, but I actually have a friend that I know who did exactly what you wanted to do. He became an attorney and then ended up becoming an FBI special agent as an attorney. And I have another friend who became an attorney and joined the Army and is now a JAG. So there's definitely different directions that you can go and that your profession can take you. But I love where you ended up, and really when we look at what makes attorneys tick and what makes special servants like FBI agents tick, we're all out there to help the community. We're out there to help people, and you just found another place where you can help people. So that's really wonderful. Tell me a little bit more about Legal Entrepreneurs for Justice, and what is the crux of that, and I think that's going to take us on an interesting road for this conversation.
Sure. So Legal Entrepreneurs for Justice, or LEJ as we call it here, is a solo small firm incubator. But it's not just any type of incubator. Of course, we always want to help solo practitioners and small practice lawyers to build their practices, but this incubator is a little bit different. What we're focused on is helping solo practitioners to build what we call socially conscious law practices. And so what that means is a couple of things. One, it means that these lawyers are focused on serving those lower to middle income clients who are sort of stuck in that justice gap, the ones who make too much to qualify for legal aid, but not enough to really work with lawyers at traditional rates, utilizing big retainers and things like that. So the folks that are in the middle that mostly tend to proceed with their cases pro se because they either think they can't afford a lawyer or they don't know how to work with a lawyer. So our incubator participants are building practices to meet the needs of that particular clientele. The other thing that's special about our incubator lawyers is that in doing that service to these clients, they are not allowed to bill by the hour. We want them to create practice models that are focused on helping the clients to be more engaged with the case or the matter, being more a part or a participant in that work, and also to provide affordable legal services in ways that are a little bit non-traditional. So we focus a lot on bundling, do-it-yourself services, subscription services, and pricing models that are transparent and flexible, but also allow these lawyers to build sustainable and successful practices. And so ultimately, we see it as a win-win for clients and for lawyers, because the clients are getting access to justice in a way that other legal models aren't serving them, and the lawyers are getting a chance to build a practice they want to work for, where they don't have to bill their time by the hour, where they're able to be entrepreneurs and to do good and do well at the same time.
It's very interesting. The name of this podcast is Profit with Law. So the moment that you started saying, well, we've got an incubator to help people work with these lower class or middle class clients who maybe can't afford traditional legal services, I immediately start thinking about, well, how are they supposed to make money, right? How is that a business model? So I am curious to dive into the specifics of, I love involving the client. I love having them do some of the work so that it's not all on you. And I love that you don't bill by the hour. And those are all things that I agree with, and that it's the torch that I'm running with. But what is the business model, and how does an attorney who's focused on that target market and that clientele, how do they make a profit? What is the actual structure that helps them to achieve success while at the same time providing this very much needed service to an underserved community?
Sure. And, the business model really varies from lawyer to lawyer, obviously based on their practice area and the type of work that they're doing. We spend a lot of time in our incubator talking about value-based pricing. So we help them to figure out how to price what they do in a way that will be profitable for them. And so when a lot of people come into the profession, start practicing law, the billable hour is all they know. And so they've had it ingrained in their brain that the value that they're bringing is basically associated with the amount of time it takes them to do that work. And so we're actually trying to retrain these lawyers to think about what is the value that they are bringing to their clients in the work that they're doing, and then helping them to find price points for that value that speaks to the value, but also allows them to build a profit into what they're doing. Many of our incubator lawyers are focused on that middle income or middle section. So folks who actually do have money to spend on legal services, just they don't want to pay a $10,000 retainer and they don't want to be billed $400 an hour, but they do have money to spend. And so I think there's sometimes a misnomer that if you focus on this middle income, that it's not successful, it's not sustainable because these folks don't have money for legal services, when the truth is that they do. They're just looking to work with lawyers in a different way. So it's sort of the combination of retraining lawyers on how to value base the work that they're doing in their pricing system, and then helping them to brand and develop business and market to that middle income that certainly has money to spend on the legal services and to capture and to capitalize on that.
So it's very interesting. What exactly? I mean, you call it an incubator. When I think of a tech incubator, I think of we have a bunch of these fledgling tech companies, and we're going to find them some VC funding, and we're going to get them off the ground and get them going. Is this more of a capital infusion? Is it more of a expertise infusion? Like what does it look like in the incubator, and how much involvement in their day-to-day operations does the incubator have?
Yeah, so we are really an expertise type of incubator. We don't provide capital. We don't underwrite any of the work that they're doing. They're all, they form their practices, they form their businesses, and they thrive or don't all, on their own volition. So we see it as our role to provide the teaching and the mentoring and the community support that these folks need to launch these practices. And so they stay with us for a year as we provide them with this training, mentoring. We do have partnerships that give them office space and some perks like free bar membership, free CLEs, things like that. So they don't have to worry about that, but they stay with us through that year, receiving all of that training. And then we let them fly, and we're there for their support afterwards. They can always come back and participate in more training and of course, additional mentoring. But for the most part, they're sort of on their own, and we're really just providing that expertise for them.
This is it's all very interesting, and I'm just wrapping my mind around the whole thing. Are they paying a fee to be in the incubator, or is it funded? Are you guys funded through some other way?
So they do pay a fee to participate in the incubator. It's a small fee. We don't charge them for the first 3 months of their time in the program, so that they can focus those 3 months on all of the things that need to be done to get a practice off the ground, getting malpractice insurance, incorporating, building a website, all of those things. Then they pay a monthly fee, but it's a relatively small fee because we underwrite a lot of the cost as a program of the Colorado Supreme Court. So there are incubators in a number of states across the country, but as far as we know, we're the only one that's actually supported by the court rather than a bar association or a foundation or something like that. So the benefit of that means that our budget, we don't fundraise for our budget. This is something that our Supreme Court here in Colorado is providing for these lawyers in underwriting a portion of that. But they do have some skin in the game with the fees that they pay to participate.
Interesting. And how do you have a max capacity of how many law firms you can work with? Is there an application process? Like, how does somebody become a part of the incubator? And then what? And I'm going to give you more than one question at once. And then when they're done with the 12 months and they're, here, fly bird fly, are there continuing supports that you offer to them, or are they completely on their own?
No, absolutely. So to join the program, folks apply, and then there's an interview process. We always want to make sure this is the right fit for us as well as for them. We don't accept everybody who applies. We're really looking for lawyers who buy into this notion of a socially conscious law practice. We're looking for folks who have an entrepreneurial mindset, something that can be really challenging for a lot of lawyers who want predictability. And so we do go through that process. We cap it at 10 a year, 10 participants a year, just because we want to keep that cohort small so that those folks can get to know one another, work with one another, and so that we have the right amount of capacity to provide them with the support that they are seeking. So that's how they come into the program. And then when they leave the program, after the 12 months, we have an optional, it's a mastermind program that includes additional training. There's an additional fee for that, but if they want to stay and participate in what we sort of call, the 2.0, or we think of it as the first 12 months is getting your bachelor's degree in modern law practice. The next 6 months is really your master's degree. And so some of them choose to stay and do that if they want to talk about things, if they're ready for things like scalability. That's really where we're focusing on growth from there. How do you scale? How do you diversify your practice areas, bring on staff, partner with other organizations? All of those things are covered in that secondary program.
Very interesting. Do you have a big brother, big sister kind of program where somebody is finished with their 12 months and now they can mentor somebody else who's coming in through, to the incubator?
Absolutely. All of our past cohort members or alumni serve as mentors in our program, and they also serve as some of our trainers as well. And so we think of ourselves as building a community, building an army of these lawyers, and so we try to continue to activate them after their time in the initial program as mentors and as teachers.
It's a really, really unique and cool program that you have. It's a shame it's limited to 10. I really like the concept. I like the idea, and I like the way that you're helping them build the practice. So very very interesting. Now, what if anything is being done to they're social conscious with who, what clients they're trying to serve? What other things are they, in the realm of being social conscious, are they also focusing on? Is there a specific type of staff that they're after? Is there a specific practice area that they're trying to work in, that's part of that social consciousness that's being promoted?
Absolutely. We do look for folks who are interested in practicing in areas that tend to be underserved or serve the underserved. And so we have folks who do immigration, family law, small business. It has become increasingly important, bankruptcy. We do have preclusions on folks who do work like personal injury. And the reason for that is that personal injury law as a practice model, because it's mostly contingency based, there's not so much of an access to justice issue there. People can go and hire a lawyer at no cost, and have their needs met. And so we don't take on folks like that because that market is served. So we're looking for people who want to work on those areas where we see the most pro se litigants, at least in Colorado, and who are trying to serve those underserved folks. And what's been really interesting as we've been running this incubator is it's one of the most diverse programs that we have here in Colorado. When you look at the lawyers who are participating, they all represent a huge number of demographics and communities that we've not been otherwise able to engage. And so it's been wonderful to see these lawyers who I think would count themselves as underrepresented or historically marginalized coming out of these programs as business owners and as thriving lawyers. And that's been wonderful.
Yeah, it's beautiful and a great mission. I love what you're doing there. I know that this is the more exciting thing to talk about, but what is the Colorado Attorney Mentoring Program as opposed to the Legal Entrepreneurs for Justice, and are they related in some way?
Yes, so CAMP is really the overarching office that LEJ is a part of. So as I mentioned, we're an office of the Colorado Supreme Court, which is wonderful. It means that our court has made an investment in our lawyers here in Colorado. And so the CAMP program is the older program. It's been around since 2013. And really its mission is, I always like to say, to help people find their people, their place and their purpose in the legal profession. And so we help folks to identify mentors. We provide professional development. We do trainings on diversity, equity, and inclusion. We work in the well-being realm and really think about all of those things that are pain points in the profession for many lawyers who are either new or transitioning in the profession. And so we try to be sort of the guidance counselor, if you will, for lawyers in Colorado. And so that's the umbrella organization. And LEJ was actually a standalone C3 for a couple of years when it first started, and because of funding issues was having struggles. And so we ultimately acquired that program and have now pulled it under our umbrella. So it fits in nicely as a mission related program to the overarching work of the CAMP program.
Very, very interesting. How can somebody, if somebody who's listening to this wants to find out more about it, how can they get more information about it?
So everything about our programs are on our websites. You can go to coloradomentoring.org to learn more about the CAMP program, and then lejco.org for the LEJ program. And the websites are really substantive and give you all the information you would want to know.
Is the cohort a calendar-based cohort? Like, are you about to start with a new set of 10 budding law entrepreneurs on January 1st? Is that how it works?
We launch every January. So we'll start on January 3rd. We do a 2-week boot camp, and it's an intensive boot camp where we obviously describe the program, but get these folks in the entrepreneurial mindset. We find that for these lawyers to be successful, they have to start seeing themselves as business owners and entrepreneurs from day one. And for those folks who have been in practice and only focused on the mechanics of practice, that takes some time. So we do a very intensive 2-week boot camp, and then we launch into our routine trainings from there.
Got it. So I'm assuming there's an application period. When do you open applications and when do you close them, leading into that new cohort in January?
We take applications all year long. They close usually around Halloween, and then we do interviews through November. So folks can apply at any point in the year before November 1st, and we'll hold your application till we're ready to interview.
Got it. And I mean, the selection, you only have 10 spots, right? And I have no idea how many applicants you're getting, but I imagine that you have to say yes to some and no to others, right? So how do you make that selection? How do you make that choice? It's got to be tough for you to be able to say, oh, these are the people we're going to take a shot on.
It's always challenging, of course, but we really do focus on that element of fit. And there's a lot of times where we both come to the conclusion that the fit's not there, usually through the interview process. As we're learning more about the types of practices people want to start or what their vision is, it starts to become clear that this may not be the best place for them. And they understand that just as we understand that. So we luck out sometimes in not having to have too many difficult conversations as that element of fit becomes pretty clear. So we do have to turn away folks, when it's not that fit because of practice area. Sometimes we have folks who have just been struggling in the job market and think, I'm going to hang a shingle. That's going to be the thing, I'm going to do for my own sense of financial security, but they haven't really bought into the notion of being a business owner, being an entrepreneur. And that's where we say, take some time, come back, spend a year building your practice, and then come back if this is still where you want to be. And so that's why we do interview so that we can get to know them and really get to understand. The other thing is some people aren't prepared to take on the financial aspects of being out on their own. They haven't really thought through what happens if I quit my job to do this. How am I going to support myself? So we have to talk through that with them, and they realize, I'm not ready. And so those are the kind of conversations that we're having, again, because we want people who are in the program to have the best chance of success. We don't want to bring in folks who are going to struggle or who are going to get to the end of this and realize it wasn't a good use of their time. So we try to utilize our methodology to make sure we're bringing in the folks who have the best chances to be successful in the program.
Yeah. Really good stuff. Good stuff. I love it. I'm going to ask you some questions offline. Curious to see if there's anything that we can do to help you with the promotion of it. I think it's great that you're giving this opportunity to folks to get their feet on the ground in the right way. Starting off the right way. I just wish that you had more spots. Is everybody who's coming in just starting out brand new, or are they, some of them have a practice already running and they're kind of hit and restart?
We see a little bit of everybody. We have folks who are brand new law grads, and they know this is what they want to do, and they tell us that even before they graduate from law school, and they're ready and they're ready to go. We have folks who are not new to practice, but new to solo practice. So they are quite experienced. They've worked for other law firms. They have caseloads. They bring some of their clients with them. And then we have folks who are experienced solo practitioners, but are looking to change their model and their methodology to be more focused on this access to justice, socially conscious way of practicing. And so it runs the gamut. And again, as we're putting together our cohorts, we also look for that element of diversity. It's great when some of the folks who have already been in practice, in solo practice, can help mentor their own cohort members in some of the startup phases that are happening. And so we're always looking for that dynamic as well, but we really do see it all.
Awesome. Ryann, this has been great. I really appreciate you being here and sharing all this with us. And you already shared the URLs earlier. We're going to share that up in our show notes. So folks, if you go to profitwithlaw.com, you can access the show notes to this episode there. You can also look in the description of your podcast player. Usually it fits. We put the show notes in there as well. And there's a resources section that has everything linked up. I'm going to ask you, I ask all of my guests when they're leaving to leave us one parting piece of advice, piece of wisdom for our listeners. If you had one thing to share that they can walk away with a golden nugget from this conversation with, what would that be?
Oh, the pressure's on. I think, what I tell everybody is, to set your own definition of success. In this profession, it's really easy to live somebody else's idea of what success is or vision for success. And the more that you can articulate that for yourself, the happier and probably more successful you're ultimately going to be.
Awesome. Love it. Ryann, thank you so much. Really appreciate you being here. Folks, if this is your first time listening to the Profit with Law podcast and you enjoyed this conversation, we'd love it if you hit the subscribe button in your podcast player. This way you get notified every time we release a new episode. We're here at least once a week, every Thursday, with another guest interview. There's well over 300 interviews in the archive as well, or conversations or episodes in the archives as well. You can go back and binge on those, listen to a bunch of them. There are a lot of really good stuff that we've already produced, and they are for the taking. Last thing is, if you think that this is something that could help somebody else, somebody that we'd love it if you just share this episode with them. Let them take a listen, let them learn from it, appreciate something that you gleaned from it. Share that with them. Really, the word of mouth is the best way to share this podcast and allow our message to grow, and our ability to help you help others to grow as well. So enjoy your weekend. We'll catch you next week. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning into the Profit with Law podcast. Your feedback is extremely valuable to us, as well as helping us reach more people with this valuable content. Please leave us a rating and review in your favorite podcast directory. Join us again next time when we are back with even more strategies to profit with law.